Hi friends, in the last session under superconductivity, we have seen certain basics wherein I tried to explain the concept of Michener effect. That is, when a normal conductor is subjected to a magnetic field, the lines of magnetic field try to pass through the superconductor, normal conductor. But when you try to cool the temperature below the critical temperature, the moment you do that, the lines stop penetrating through. So how far these lines can penetrate through the conductor is what is known as penetration depth. For that, there was a theory proposed called London theory. So therefore, that depth is what is termed as London penetration depth. That means obtaining an expression for the penetration depth through this concept. According to London theory, the magnetic field applied at one of the face of a superconductor does not vanish. It doesn't vanish, but it decreases exponentially to zero after penetrating into the small region inside the superconductor. According to London theory, the magnetic field at one of the face of a superconductor does not vanish but decreases exponentially to zero after passing inside the after penetrating into small region inside the superconductor. To understand this, we will consider a superconductor for which a magnetic field is applied to one of the faces. To obey the Michener effect, that is what we call as expulsion, it will not allow the magnetic lines to pass through. But in practice, a small portion of the applied magnetic field penetrates to a small distance into the superconductor. So how do we calculate? This is what I mean. This is what I have just explained. Field applied to one of the faces of the superconductor doesn't vanish but decreases exponentially to zero after penetrating into a small region inside the superconductor. Now we can graphically show that like this. So this is the distance on this axis. This is the field applied. H0 is the field applied. So the penetrating distance, this is what I mean by saying decreasing exponentially to zero. So the penetrating field at a distance x from the face, you can calculate with the help of this formula. H is equal to H0 into e power minus x by lambda. Here this lambda is what is termed as London penetration depth. So this particular diagram or graph shows the variation of H with respect to x. Suppose when x equal to lambda, substitute x equal to lambda, what you will get? So when you substitute x equal to lambda, then H will become H0 by E. So the penetration depth is the distance inside the superconductor at which the penetrating magnetic field is equal to 1 by E times the applied magnetic field of H0. H0 by E times means H0 by E is nothing but the penetrating depth of magnetic field. Penetrating magnetic field is equal to 1 by E times the applied magnetic field H0. So the lambda ranges from 10 to 100 nanometers. So this depth is very significant for a thin film. If you take a thin film superconductor, this lambda value is different when compared to bulk semiconductor. So the variation of lambda with temperature, if you observe, it can be expressed as a term is expressed like this. So this is the depth. So variation of lambda with temperature T in the case of a thin film can be shown like this. Normally, in this expression, when x equal to lambda, automatically H will become H0 by E. The penetration depth lambda therefore is the distance inside the superconductor at which the penetrating magnetic field is equal to 1 by E times of applied magnetic field H naught. The lambda value ranges from 10 to 100 nanometers. So this depth what we are talking about is very significant in the case of a thin film superconductor rather than a bulk superconductor. In that case, the variation of lambda with temperature can be given by this expression. This is of course 1 by 2 means whole power square root. So graphically you can show like this. So this is of course scale on y-axis. This is absolute temperature in Kelvin on x-axis. So this is the critical temperature. So this variation of temperature near Tc, for example, if you take the depth value is maximum, lambda is very maximum. That indicates magnetic lines penetrating all the surface, converting into a normal conductor. This is what you have to understand about London penetration depth. Now let us look at the types of superconductors. So in the presence of a critical magnetic field, what we have termed as Hc, a superconductor converts itself into a normal conductor. That is, in the presence of a critical magnetic field, a superconductor converts into a normal conductor. So based on the conversion process, superconductors can be classified like this. Two types. One is called type 1 and another is called type 2. If you look at type 1 superconductors, generally they are cylindrical in shape. So we will consider a cylindrical superconductor to which a magnetic field H is applied along the axis of it. So naturally it will not allow the magnetic lines and therefore it will obey Michener effect like this. So this is a cylindrical superconductor to which we applied a magnetic field H along the axis. So therefore, as per Michener effect, it doesn't allow any magnetic lines to pass through. That means H will become H equal to minus M. That is the step you have to understand. So what happens inside the superconductor? Inside the superconductor, the magnetization acting opposite to H. This is magnetization. This is applied magnetic field. So this magnetism is acting opposite to the applied field. So when the magnetic field is equal to the critical field, that is when H becomes equal to Hc, then immediately minus M naturally becomes 0. And the moment it becomes 0, the magnetic lines immediately penetrates the entire superconductor and convert into a normal conductor. So like this, again I am repeating, the moment it obeys Michener effect means H will become minus M. That means it will not allow the magnetic lines. Inside the superconductor what will happen? The magnetization opposes the applied magnetic field. So when the magnetic field is equal to the critical field, automatically minus M becomes 0. The moment minus M becomes 0, then the magnetic lines immediately penetrate the entire superconductor and converts into a normal conductor. Right? So this is how it can be done. Understood? Now, of course, this conversion is very fast. Now you can observe the variation. This is how variation can be understood. So the variation of this minus M with respect to H, we can see here. In this case, conversion is very fast and it is what is known as type 1. See, up to this state, it is superconductor. Once it crosses, it becomes into a normal conductor. So this conversion takes place very speedily, very fast. Therefore, the conversion process in type 1 conductor is very fast and therefore it is also known as soft superconductor. So if you summarize the type 1 superconductors, you can say that in type 1 superconductors, when the applied magnetic field is equal to the critical magnetic field, then immediately it converts into a normal conductor. So it will have only one critical value, single critical value. Hc is only one value. Therefore, type 1 superconductors have a single critical field value. And there is no mixed state. See, this state is different from this state. There is no mixed state in this. These are all, the conversion is very fast here. These are fast, also known as soft superconductors. And generally, materials in pure form, they're all examples for type 1 superconductors. Let us understand type 2 superconductors now. When you look at type 2 superconductors, generally they are spherical in shape. So consider a spherical superconductor kept in a magnetic field. So like this. As per Mechner effect, it is supposed to expel the magnetic line. So all the magnetic lines of force applied by the external magnetic field are expelled here. That's why you get a curved line. So when it expels the magnetic line, H will become minus M. That is, magnetization inside a superconductor opposes the passage of lines through it. Right? Now you see curved lines here. So if you observe these curved lines are concentrated at these 2 points heavily. Near the edges, here and here, these curved lines are concentrated at the 2 sides. Right? So curved magnetic lines are concentrated at the 2 ends marked like this. That means here in at these points, the intensity H of the magnetic field is predominant at both these ends. So one is called lower critical field, the other one is called upper critical field. If you observe this, these curved lines are appearing to be curved magnetic lines are concentrated at these ends, marked like this. So critical field is divided into 2 parts, Hc1 and Hc2. One is called lower critical field, the other one is called upper critical field. It indicates that at these points, the intensity of the magnetic field is very predominant. So up to lower critical field, the superconductor behaves as a diamagnetic material. So when the magnetic field is crossing the lower critical point, that is Hc1, then the penetration starts at these ends marked here like this. So you can just see this diagram. So when the magnetic field exceeds the lower critical value, then the penetration starts at these ends. This is because the intensity at these ends reaches Hc1 first, and as a result, the minus M value decreases and penetrated portion of the area loses its superconductivity and it starts becoming a normal conductor. Now this conversion usually is completed. If it starts at Hc1, it completes at Hc2. That is, Hc2 is the upper critical field where the penetration covers the entire surface. So thus, between Hc1 and Hc2, there is a mixed state. Up to Hc1, it is a superconductor. Between them, it is a mixed state. By the time it completes Hc2, it becomes a normal conductor. That means between Hc1 and Hc2, it will have a mixed state of superconducting as well as normal conducting states. So after Hc2, it is completely converted into normal conductor. Right? We can observe that. So after Hc2, the moment critical field exceeds the second upper critical limit, second one, it automatically becomes a normal conductor. Therefore, it allows the magnetic lines of forces to pass through. So how the variation can be understood, let us see. So when you study the variation in the form of a graph between the field and the magnetization effect, intensity of magnetization, you see all the 3 states. So there is a lower critical value, there is an upper critical value. Till the magnetic field is within the lower critical value, that is up to Hc1, it is exhibiting superconducting state. After crossing the upper critical value, it is becoming normal conductor. But between lower critical value and upper critical value, it is exhibiting a mixed state. That means it will have the properties of a superconductor as well as a normal conductor. Of course, mixed state is also known as vortex state. Both are same. Either you can call it as a mixed state or a vortex state. That means within these predominant points of lower and upper critical fields, the superconductor behaves as a superconductor as well as a normal conductor. But once the value crosses the upper critical value, it loses its superconductivity behavior and becomes a normal conductor. So up to lower critical value, it is a superconducting state, and after upper critical value, it is a normal conductor. But between the lower and upper critical values, it has dual behavior, that it shows that it is a mixed state. Remember, it is a mixed state. The process is very slow. So these are some of the examples. These are all called hard superconductors. Nimium-3, strontium, germanium combination. These are all materials which come under type 2 superconductors. So when you summarize type 2 superconductors, basically what you need to understand is, in this type 2 superconductor, when applied field reaches the lower SC1, I mean, the applied field reaches the lower conversion, that is SC1, it starts and it is completed slowly at upper critical field. It has two critical fields, that is SC1 and SC2. This is a mixed state. These are hard superconductors rather. The materials with impurities or alloys of type 2 are all type 2 superconductors. So it has two states. If you observe type 1, it is only single state. But here, as I told you, it has got two states. It is superconducting state. It is in superconducting state up to critical value 1, and loses superconducting state after critical value 2. But between these two superconducting states of Hc1 and Hc2, it shows a mixed state. This is what you need to know about type 2 superconductors. Now, take two superconductors. These two superconductors are joined together with the help of a thin insulating layer, right? So, if you observe, these two superconductors consist of paired electrons. These are all electron pairs. Electrons are paired like this. These pairs are what are called as Cooper pairs in the superconducting state. So these Cooper pairs will try to penetrate. This is called tunneling. These Cooper pairs will penetrate or tunnel through the thin insulator and constitute a very small supercurrent. So the insulator that forms the junction between the two superconductors is what is known as Josephson junction, and the total effect is what is called as Josephson effect. I am repeating. Kindly listen back. Consider two superconductors which are joined together with the help of a thin insulating layer. These superconductors consist of paired electrons on either side, known as Cooper pairs in the superconducting state. These Cooper pairs will try to penetrate or pass through or tunnel through a thin insulator, and because of that they constitute a very small supercurrent. The insulator which forms the junction between the superconductors is what is known as Josephson junction, and this effect is what is known as Josephson effect. Now it has two types. One is called DC Josephson effect and another one is AC Josephson effect, that is direct current and alternate current. Let us see. If you see the DC effect, you have not applied any voltage in this. So without any applied voltage across the junction, due to tunneling of these Cooper pairs, a small direct supercurrent flows across the junction. This effect is what is known as DC Josephson effect. Let us suppose the propagation of Cooper pairs is in the form of a wave. When I say wave, wave will have a phase difference. So if you take any two parts of the waves, the phase difference between the two parts of the waves on either side of the junction in terms of a wave function, we can represent like this. Now look at this. Just now I said that in a DC effect what is happening? We have not applied any voltage across the junction. So when you don't apply any voltage across the junction, only due to tunneling, the Cooper pairs activate, and therefore they propagate. So due to tunneling of copper pairs, it produces a direct small DC current, which is called supercurrent, DC supercurrent. So this is Josephson DC effect. If you imagine that these copper pairs are propagating in the form of a wave, the phase difference between the two parts of the wave, you can take it as phi naught. Now you have two waves. So one is phi 1, another one is phi 2. So therefore, in terms of wave function, if you want to represent the phase difference, this phi naught can be written as phi 2 minus phi 1, because phi 2 is always great. So when you know the phase difference, automatically you can calculate the current. So using this wave function, we can calculate the tunneling current as something like this. I is equal to I naught into sine phi naught. So this is how you can represent the tunneling current. What is I naught here? I naught is the tunneling current. Phi naught is the wave function form of the phase difference. Now this I naught is the maximum current that flows through the junction without any voltage across the junction. So this expression represents a direct current that flows across the junction. This is what you need to understand as far as DC Josephson effect is concerned. Now let us see what is AC Josephson effect. AC effect. AC effect is nothing but for the Josephson junction you have given an applied voltage, that's it, nothing else. See here, you see tunneling to both sides. Earlier only tunneling is only to one side in DC. Here you have two sides. Now when you are applying a static potential, V0 is a static potential. When you are applying a static potential across the Josephson junction, then the copper pair starts, because it is an alternating current, the copper pairs start oscillation. That means they start oscillating through the insulated layer. So as a result, an alternating current flows through the junction. So this effect is what is known as AC Josephson effect. Due to this applied voltage, there will be, because it is oscillating like a wave, there is an additional phase difference, del phi. If phi is the phase, additional phase is the difference. That is, delta phi is introduced into the copper pairs. So how do we represent the delta phi? Let us see. Here you see, as I told, only one side in DC. Here, both sides. So this additional phase difference, delta phi, is represented by the equation Et by h cut. What is E here? E is the total energy of the copper pairs. But we know there are two electrons in each. Therefore, E can be represented. V0 is the static potential applied. So charge multiplied by potential gives you the energy. Therefore, E is represented as 2U into V0. So let us substitute and see what happens to the tunneling current in AC effect of Josephson. So this is the additional phase difference, where E value is this. So if you substitute this value in delta phi, you will get delta phi as 2E V0 T by h cut. Now from this, I am saying additional phase difference. If you see the last equation, it is I equal to I naught sine phi naught we got. Now for that phi naught, you will have delta phi getting added, because it is an additional phase difference. Therefore, this time in AC effect, you can produce tunneling current as I is equal to I naught into sine, up to sine phi naught, it is DC current. In AC, you got an additional phase difference. So it will be sine phi naught plus delta phi. Now you substitute delta phi value here. So what will be the value? You can get like this. Since delta phi is equal to 2E V0 T by h cut, you substituted this. Right? Now in this, phi naught plus 2E V0 by h cut is the additional phase you got. Now here 2E V0 by h cut, if you take it as a constant, which is angular frequency, I am simplifying this. Taking 2E V0 by h cut as omega, that is angular frequency, then naturally this circular part will become omega. So this will become therefore phi naught plus omega t. That is the ultimate equation. So you can represent the tunneling current in Josephson AC effect as I is equal to I naught into sin phi naught plus omega t, where omega is nothing but substituted constant here 2ev naught by h cut, and omega is, because you are saying it is oscillating, therefore it will becomes naturally the angular frequency of that. Omega represents angular frequency of the tunneling current when it is moving in the form of a wave. In AC effect, that is in Josephson AC effect, if this is the tunneling current, let us see what are the current voltage characteristics. So when you look at the current voltage characteristics, you will get a curve like this. This is a graphical representation. So this represents current voltage characteristics of a Josephson junction. So here, if applied potential is 0, that is V naught is 0, then what happens is constant current flows. So when V naught equal to 0, that is when the static potential given to the circuit is 0, there is a constant flows of DC current, IC. IC is nothing but the DC current through the junction. This current is called superconducting current, right? Both on positive side as well as in this quadrant as well as in this quadrant. This is called superconducting current, and the effect is Josephson DC effect. Suppose if the applied potential is less than the critical potential, then a constant DC IC flows directly. But when the applied potential V naught is greater than the critical potential, the junction will have a finite resistance, and therefore current oscillates with frequency. And that frequency what we have earlier given as omega equal to 2ev naught by h cut. This effect is Josephson DC effect. So three states are there. When applied potential is 0, constant DC current flows. That current is represented as IC. So that current is also known as superconducting current, and the effect is DC effect. But when it is less than that, only constant DC current flows. But when it is more than the critical current voltage, then automatically junction will offer some resistance, because that the current produced oscillates with a certain frequency. So this is an AC effect. So you can show both AC and DC effects of Josephson junction when you study the current voltage characteristics. So now let us try to understand, where do we apply this concept in day-to-day environment of electronic devices. The concept of Josephson effect, both DC and AC, are generally used at different places. So if you want to generate microwaves with certain frequency using this formula, you require Josephson junction. Now, AC Josephson effect is generally used to define potential. That is what is meant by standard volt. AC Josephson effect is used to measure very low temperature based on the variation of frequency of the current radiation with temperature. That is, if you want to measure very low temperatures which are based on frequency, then Josephson AC effect is used. And of course, Josephson junction is generally used for switching of signals from one circuit to other circuit, changing of circuits, switching of circuits from one place to other. That means switching of signals from one circuit to another can be carried out with the help of Josephson junction. These are some of the applications of Josephson junction, right? So as a summary, if you look at it, in today's session, we tried to understand in the presence of critical magnetic field how a superconductor is converting into a normal conductor, and on the process of conversion process, what are different types of superconductors like type 1 and type 2 superconductors, how they are varying, what are the differences between them. Like type 1 superconductors, when you apply a magnetic field, if it is equal to critical magnetic field, then immediately it converts into a normal conductor. Whereas in type 2, when the applied field reaches a lower conversion, then it starts and it is completed slowly to the upper critical field. And in type 1, it has got only single critical field, whereas in type 2, you have two critical fields. In type 1, there is no mixed state. In type 2, there is a mixed state. In type 1, they are called soft superconductors. Type 2 are called superconductors. And then we try to understand something called Josephson AC effect and Josephson DC effect. What are the expressions for the tunneling current in both the cases? How the current voltage characteristics of Josephson junction varies. What happens when potential is equal to 0, applied potential, static potential is less than critical field, and applied static potential is greater than critical field. How the angular frequency comes into picture, and what are the different applications of Josephson junction. This is what we have discussed now. So in the next session we shall take up an important concept called Bardeen, Cooper and Schaeffer theory, which is the basis for superconductivity, and how these Cooper pairs are formed and how electron pairing takes place, how an electron can pair with an electron. What is the basis for that? That is the crucial thing. That is what we are going to understand in the next session, right?